Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the Kingston Tree Commission meeting. Today is December 16th, 2021. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the planning director for the city of Kingston and the organizer for this virtual meeting. Before we begin our meeting, I'd like to go over a few guidelines to help navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that any members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As the organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Commission members and city staff will control their own mute button. As good practice, we ask that you mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a commission member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hand. As the organizer, I will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. The commission member will then unmute themselves, state their name, and speak clearly, muting after finished. All meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city website at a later date. We are also live streaming this meeting over the city's YouTube channel. If you have any audio issues, please send a text message to the following number, 845-443-0416. Please be aware that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. The number to text again is 845-443-0416. I want to thank you for your patience, and we now begin our meeting at 3:34 p.m. So it looks like, hold on, George is joining us as well. So, okay. Hopefully everybody received earlier today the very short agenda and the photographs of the 3 trees on Henry. The only thing that I really have for today is the Henry Street project. We haven't received any new applications this month. Greg Krupp from the city engineering offices was not available to be with us today, but I did go out with him. The original intention was not to take any trees down on Henry Street, but just to supplement with new installations, new plantings, approximately 25 new trees along the street. But in looking at the streetscape, we did go through, both he and I, and there were 3 trees that we wanted the commission to take a look at. So we'll start with those. If you wanted, I don't know if you've got them to pull up. I can try and share if you want, but 36 Henry Street. It didn't look so great. George keeps trying to pop on. I don't know if he's having a problem. There he is. Oh, Amanda is with us. Hi, Amanda.
Hello. Hi, sorry.
Amanda is with GPI. She's on the project. I didn't expect you, but I'm glad that you're here.
I'm here.
So I was just starting to share with them the 3 trees that we identified, Greg and I, on the street that we wanted the commission to take a look at and, help us in the decision. I personally feel that they're all compromised. And in light of the project going in, I think, it would be better to have them removed and replaced at this time than to try and salvage them. So let me see if I can. Give me a second. I can try and pull up my.
Sue, I can do it too. I don't know if I'm a.
Oh, yeah. Let me make you. That would be easier for me.
Okay.
Okay, you are now a co-host. Okay, so this is the first one. This is 36 Henry Street. As you can see, it's been pruned and hatched a little bit. I don't know if this tree is, worth trying to save by pruning it some more, but I think it's probably reached its useful life. And if, since the entire project is going through, in my opinion, I believe this one should come out and be replaced. I don't know what the commission members, if you have any questions, thoughts.
Hi, this is Tebby. I don't know if you can see me
I
because,
can.
okay. My question for all the trees, and I would love George's input, but I recall that when we were talking about the project, the Rupco project, and they told them to take off 10 to 20 feet from the top of the trees, just cut them really low. I don't know if these trees are diseased or just totally unbalanced from the way they've been trimmed. And if there's a possibility to just take them down a good bit, but I don't feel like I have the expertise, but that would be my sense rather than cut them all down. Perhaps this one I think is the worst one. Some of the others look like maybe you could take them down and that they would still be all right, but I didn't see them. I don't know if they're diseased, and I don't know whether taking 10 feet off the top and leaving the bottom would help the tree or not. And I would love to hear George's input or somebody who's more of an arborist and has some expertise.
George, you're on. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this one looks, those are all like vertical stumps, not stump sprouts, but vertical sprouts, which are just adding weight on to the branches, which eventually they'll collapse. So, I mean, this one, from what I see, there's some rot in the upper part, and it's probably rot, about halfway down. But so I would say that it's not worth keeping because it's not going to get any better. It's just going to get worse until it collapses. At least in this case.
Okay.
Yeah, it might have been originally because it was pruned. I don't know if there's wires above it or what, but that's where it is now. It's just, those sprouts are just adding weight onto the branches until one day they'll crack.
Tebby, you're unmuted.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I don't know about the other trees, maybe one or there are two more, right? So.
Yep. We also have 38, which is right next door. 38 Henry. Kyla, can you pull that one up? This one, and unfortunately you have the tree behind it in the distance, which kind of makes it a little difficult. Maybe if you can kind of see more of it, but this is very similar situation to the one right next door, where there is a lot of dead wood in it, actually, in the upper reaches. I don't know if just trimming some of the dead wood out and pruning this would help it, or if this is kind of in the similar situation as right next door.
Yeah. Well, what does everybody else think? But generally, in this one's a little bit better. But I looked, I kind of magnified it this morning when I was looking at it. And yeah, it does have a lot of rot in it and stuff. So, I mean, I would tend to think that this one is better condition, but still not worth keeping.
Any of the other commission members have any thoughts on this?
This is Vince. I agree with George.
Okay, Amanda or Tebby?
Yeah, I thought maybe this one was a little better and might be salvageable, but again, I would defer to George. So I would agree that it's time to go.
I mean, I would defer to anybody who went out there to take a, look other than a picture, you know what I mean? But just going off the picture, I hate to do it that way, but that's where I'm at.
It does look like there's some room. Maybe another tree could be put there. I don't know what the Henry Street plans are for this particular spot, but
Well, typically, you'd need at least 10 feet.
Right. Amanda, do
This-
you have
this doesn't
any,
look-
any thoughts or Amanda, Joy, I'm talking to now.
In this area, there are overhead lines. That's why they were pruned, because Central Hudson has their power lines right above. So my hesitation with the existing tree is even if we get it to a healthy condition, there's the possibility it could be pruned again in a way that wouldn't benefit the tree. And in terms of placing a new tree in that location, we had not planned to put a tree underneath the lines. Just because it had a lack of longevity in that area. We were trying to focus our tree planting efforts in areas where there's no overhead line. So that would be on the other side of the street in this area of Henry Street. But
So just
So-
so the commission
Sue,
members understand, and
those
Amanda,
two
correct me if I'm wrong, but the project, yeah,
Those
Vince?
two trees, the last two trees we talked about,
Yes,
they both appear to have overhead wires on them. And
right.
the only concern I would have is the location of where they're going to plant new trees associated with those two trees or those three trees, because it doesn't appear to be enough space there without removing the stump.
Right.
Not just
I
cutting
think-
it below grade, but just removing it.
Right, this is Sue. I think that the idea with the project along the entire street length is to have all of the overhead utilities located on one side of the street, which will free up the opposite side for all of the new plantings, so that new plantings are going to go in without that overhead wire limitation, which currently, right now, the wires are crisscross all over. So the idea is to move everything to one side of the street and allow for street trees to grow, but in a way that they'll last for a long, long time and benefit the entire street.
yeah, that's correct. Our goal is working with Central Hudson and Verizon to have them relocate their overhead lines from both sides of the road, from Clinton to Broadway, to consolidate them to just the south side, the southeast side, so that we can have trees that are more substantial on the northwest side of Henry, which is the opposite side of the road from these trees there.
Do you have a roadmap of where the plantings are going to go? Because if you remove these three trees, it doesn't appear to be enough room to plant another one. But maybe I'm wrong, but do you know that answer?
You're saying in the same spot
Amanda?
as where they are now?
Or in proximity to that spot? Yes.
We wouldn't be replanting on that side of the road because there are the overhead electric lines. We would be planting on the side
The other
opposite.
side.
Yes.
Okay.
So the stumps and that issue would not come into play for those new plantings that we're planning.
Okay. You just grind it down below grade and leave it that way.
Yeah, we may turn out to remove it in its entirety with the stump as well, if it's possible.
Is there extra space going to be put on the other side? It all depends on the design of this whole thing. As far as, because when I look at it is if there's still going to be the space where their trees are taken out. I mean, you do have a little space there where you could basically put in small sized trees, if that was something that the homeowners wanted. I'm just mentioning that, but I don't know what the design of the project is, so.
I had put in the email this morning, George, the link to the Engage Kingston website, which goes directly to the Henry Street project, and the design plans should be in that link.
Oh, okay.
If you can pull it, if you have a second screen, I don't know where you're at right now.
Good questions.
Yes, I'm sorry, Evan. And I think Debbie had her hand up as well. Evan first.
So just related to the cost, right? And we understand like Central Hudson over Verizon, is going to, I mean, like they are doing the wire work. And so it's by removing these three trees and the cost is going to be putting on the like Henry Street project, right?
Yes, yeah, this is not going to be a cost that would be required of the homeowner, of the property owner.
Yes, but
This
at the same
this would be part of the project.
yes, but at the same time, like how, because like, I mean, I understand like our goal is to really, remove the tree, under these wires and, so there'd be more space, but like, it seems like I agree the first tree definitely should be removed, but like the second tree or third tree, just by not removing it and it's not going to, I just like think the cost and benefit saving, then, like why don't we just leave the tree without, like, and that's why I'm thinking like, okay, the Central Hudson or Verizon, they are going to, like work on their wire, they have to trim it, they want to remove it, and like they should be part of their cost.
Okay. So you think, so as opposed to removing this second tree at 38, leave it and prune it? Do you want to prune it at this time? Or just leave it, let it go and let it stay?
Yeah, I think like you just like leave it as it is, right? Because like in the end, they are going to cut down whatever they want. If the Central Hudson has been done the same similar thing before, regardless how we, talk to them, right?
The only thing is we don't have control over Central Hudson and asking them to prune. If it comes to a point, we let it stay the way it is, okay? A couple of years down the road, this project is completed and it's closed out. It becomes, and we see this tree gets to a point where it needs to come down. Okay, and the DPW puts it back on this commission to make an opinion, and we decide that the tree has to be removed, then it becomes the responsibility of the property owner at that point. So it's kind of, you're kind of, at a place where do we put the cost now on the project? We do have this tree planting program, obviously going into play. It wouldn't, obviously this project is not going to happen soon enough, but down the road, maybe the city would replant something in the future. I don't know. But we do get monies. We try and do some plantings every year. So that's a possibility too.
Okay, so the budget is allowed for removing these three trees.
The project, yeah, the Henry Street project would remove the trees. It wouldn't be on the property owner at this time. We leave them. I can't say, if in the future, we might have to direct the property owner to remove it or prune it.
All right, thank you.
Tebby, you had a question?
Yeah, I think I went to the website. I think it answered my question, but what it sounded like is you're going to put all the electric lines on one side and then trees on the other. But I guess that's not the case, that they would put certain kinds of trees on the side without electric lines. They could have more substantial trees, but there would still be trees under the electric lines. They would just be smaller trees. In other words, you're not going to have trees just on one side of the street. That's not the plan.
Wait, you want a candy cane?
The plan right now is for us to just plant where we do not have overhead utility lines.
Oh,
We're
okay.
leaving any existing trees where they are in good condition underneath utility lines, but we are planning to plant more substantial trees under this project that would be more costly in the future on where there's no overhead utility lines.
Okay, so so you're not planning to plant any trees under the side of this, on the side of the street where the utility lines currently will be.
No, that was not planned, but if the committee felt like it was a better use to put a mix of smaller trees and more substantial trees, that could be considered, but we would have to make that decision fairly quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a landscape
Well,
designer.
what is
so-
your thought? I mean, do you think that's something that, is appropriate, or do you think, focusing on putting more significant or substantial trees along the other, along one side of the street, leaving, there's still healthy trees there on that side. These two just seem to be on the verge of, on the cusp of, should they go now at the expense of the project? Should we keep them and just let, ultimately the property owner might have to bear that expense? Or, I don't know, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah.
I can pull up the plan too, if that would help. I think it shows that, and Amanda, I don't know if I'm right in this, but it looks like the utility lines are going to cross. They're going to run down one side of the street, but at certain blocks, they are going to cross over and be on the other side of the street. So it's not that trees would only be, if you're traveling down, they're not only going to be on the left. They might be on the left for one block and then on the right, I can pull it up if that would help, and you can see where there's existing trees.
Yeah, there's a shift at Clinton Avenue where the utility lines go from one side of the road to the opposite side. And that's where you see our proposed trees shift sides of the road. There, you will see existing trees, which the only 3 that we're considering are based on condition that we're talking about today. So all other trees would stay in place.
So this is starting down by the school. So you can
Right.
see on the, you can see the light green trees, those would be new. And then as you zoom in, you do see, let's see, not necessarily for that block. So
they
there's
shift down to
a,
the other side here.
these are existing, right, Amanda?
Correct, those are existing.
These are existing that would remain. There's a couple other existing in there. And then it looks like they cross to the other side.
Correct.
I don't know if that helps or if you want me to go back.
Yeah, that's helpful, just to see where they're going to be.
So the third tree at 123, that one I think is on the side where there would be new plantings.
Correct.
In that instance where this tree is obviously lopsided, but this area will get new plantings.
Yes, those lines that you see there are just Verizon and Charter. So those are not electric utility lines.
Right, but those would be relocated to the opposite side of the street. So this side of the street would get new plantings. So potentially in this area, you're going to have a couple of new trees. This one too, I know it's hard to see from the photo. This does have a lot of dead wood in it.
So we are, just to confirm, we are also removing this 123 Henry Street tree.
That's what this is. Yeah, that's what this one is.
And this will be replaced by a couple trees, I believe, right?
Yeah, this side of the street would get some new plantings, so potentially we could put one in close proximity to this. You can see beyond it, there's some space beyond it.
Does the sidewalk width and the planting space stay the same?
Yes, it will stay approximately the same width.
Yeah, we're changing, in a lot of these cases, the trees kind of come in last. So when you're planning for, pedestrian and other movement, perhaps they should give some thought to the street tree growing space, earlier on. Because some of these areas could be widened to make it such that these trees could last 100 years versus, hitting the same problem that they're hitting now where, they're getting stressed a lot earlier. So, if you add a foot or two on by redesign, can make a huge difference, for the future of the city.
Yeah, I definitely agree. In this project, we actually did make a conscious effort to do that. On Henry Street, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, there's a lot of constraints at the back of sidewalk where there's retaining walls, stoops, porches, a lot of elevation changes. So we did make the maintenance strip wider wherever we could, which is why when you look at that plan that Kyla just showed us, you'll see there's some variations in width so that we could just maximize that grass strip wherever we could.
Okay.
So I do think we did give consideration to that, and we made sure that anywhere we were trying to put a tree, it's at least 5 feet wide to try to give it as much of a chance as we can on this narrow corridor.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. I mean, it might help, this is just an off thing, is to involve the tree commission a lot. And this is not my business, okay, but tree commission a lot earlier on. Because the trees should be considered as infrastructure just as much, which you tried to do. And that, but just something that might help to do it earlier on.
I have a quick question for George, actually. So it seems like the first two trees, they are the similar, like 36 and 38 Henry Street. They are the same type of tree, and the last one, 123, is a different type of tree. And do we know, like, this disease is applicable to particular type of particular species of tree, or it just in general, so like it's going to help us, or at least like to help us when we plant the tree, and there'll be some ideal selection just to replace this tree.
I mean, the first two appear to be Norway maples. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't been out there. I'm just going by the photo. And the third one, I believe, is might be a sugar maple, but I can't be sure. And that, so yeah, there is a difference in the third one. And that, but as far as the species goes, the mix of species that is attached, to these photos, question is you should, my big push is always that you should go for the tree that will grow the largest and provide the largest canopy over time, because that's the one that gives the most benefit to the city over the next 50 to 100 years. The other ones will be dead, so unless somebody really prefers to have like a flowering tree, and the homeowners are really adamant about it, so then you got to kind of help them out and go with it, but so it's just like the largest type of tree for the space available, and stuff.
Well, the list of trees that was sent around this morning is the list that was incorporated into the Franklin Street Complete Streets project, which is a block away. And, so the question to the tree commission is, do you want to see these similar trees utilized in the Henry Street project, or do you have other suggestions? Kyla and I were talking a little earlier today that, obviously we don't want to, continue to repeat the same types of trees in every project, because we do want a variety of trees throughout the municipality. So now is an opportunity for the commission to say, some of these are fine, but we'd also like to substitute out now, this tree for that tree. So now is your opportunity. Obviously, I don't think, some of the ones, we don't have to worry about the lower, the ones down on the bottom line, the ones under utility lines, because that's not happening in this project. So those wouldn't be considered for Henry Street, but you do have, some of the others. I think Kylie, you had mentioned that, we told for the Broadway project, we didn't want the Zelkovias. So, but we allowed them, as an opportunity on Franklin. Do we want to, look at, some other trees in this instance? Tevi.
Well, I think my understanding is that the Zelkova is really not something we want to plant. I think I've been hearing they're becoming invasive, or they have been invasive. I read an article several years ago about that, and that they do require a lot of trimming. Even, people were planting them a lot years ago, and they're lovely trees. But it seems to me that would not be one that I would come to mind for me. And what I would want to do is sort of go back to the tree, the survey that we did, and look at some of those trees. As I recall, we had a lot of sugar maples. Now, sugar maples are not on this list, so I would not put them on the list, because I think we already have quite a few of those. And, I can't remember what the percentages are, but they talk about how many of a certain species, or how many of a certain family, or so that you're having more diversity. So I don't know. I just feel like I would want to go back and look at that tree survey and see what some of those percentages are for the different types of trees, and then maybe add some trees to the list here.
Amanda, how soon do you need some recommendations on tree species?
We will need them in the next month or so.
Okay, so if the commission were to ask to come back at their January meeting, which I believe is January, I wrote it on the agenda, I don't have it up in front of me, 11th maybe, we would be able to make a decision then and get that back to you then?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. So my question to the commission is, do you want to take the month time and look at this, and then come back in January and make some recommendations?
Sure.
Anybody?
Sure. I just need to make sure I can find the tree survey again, because I can't remember if that was that something that got posted or was sent around to us. I have so many documents, I'm not sure where to look for it.
We can resend the link, but it is online.
Okay.
Yeah, Arbor Pro did the inventory, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Arbor Pro.
Yeah, it's online.
Okay.
I just have one quick question about I don't think, George, maybe you can answer this, but a dogwood tree wouldn't be a good selection for a street tree, I wouldn't think. Because it's relatively soft wood and doesn't seem to hold up.
Well,
with,
yeah, they
road
also,
salt and that was one of the trees in the list, but
right. And they're not long lived. They're, you should try to go for as long lived as possible
yes.
to get the maximum benefit. Let me just mention that, there might be some confusion between the calorie pears, which is a pyrus, and the Zelkovas. The Zelkovas, I haven't seen where they're invasive anywhere. There's like 4 types worldwide, but they can have a bad, just like calorie pears, they can have too many stems coming out from one place, but they are much stronger than calorie pears. Of course, they're not native though. I just thought I'd mention that just to keep that in mind, although it's not the point here, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I'm probably confusing the two.
Yeah, they look, say got the same kind of shape, but one of them, the Zelkovas can grow into 5 feet wide trees, and they're huge trees. I mean, depending on the type you get, and that the calorie pears will never do that.
George, are there any, looking at this list, okay, like I said earlier, I think the ones on the bottom row were the under utility lines, okay, so I don't think we want to even look at those because we're not planting on utilities. I think we want to look at more medium to larger trees, since we have an opportunity here that we don't, in a lot of cases don't normally have. Are there any that you see in the top 2 rows that we want to take away from a recommendation? And are there any that out there that you would add and have the commission maybe do some research into looking to add to these?
I have. Let me see. I don't have I'm trying to bring it up.
Okay. Well, what's listed are Linden, Magnolia, Beech, and Pin Oak for more open lawn areas. And then between the curb and the sidewalk, where there's no overhead, they have honey locust, thornless honey locust, the green vase Zelkova, and the American elm are the 3 types listed
There's a
there.
lot of different kinds of Zelkovas. There's a lot of cultivars, so that's just one of maybe 50 different ones.
Right.
I get the what's called the American elm. You don't get an American elm. You get kind of a American elm hybrid, but that's okay. Honey locust is honey locust. That's all right. Pin oak depends if you have a high pH, they'll turn yellowish kind of, and they don't grow very well. So you might want to check the soil. Beech, I don't get that one at all. What kind of beech? You certainly don't want to plant American beech because, they're dying all over the place at this point because of the beech leaf disease. It's spreading up from Westchester, so that would not be a good idea here.
Okay.
Magnolia, well, there's some magnolias. They're really tough, actually, some of them and stuff. But there are some you got to just make sure that you get a type of magnolia that can make it all the way up into like Albany in Canada, kind of, in case we get a weird weather and stuff.
Okay.
So the magnolias also tend to be widening out, so you'd need those in wider areas, kind of in that. Although there are some cultivars maybe that are vertical. So that would be an interesting one to try, and then the lindens, there are many different kinds of lindens. So the question is, if you want to go with the native linden, which is the American linden, or a white linden, that's one thing. If you want to go with some hybrids, you have the Redmond linden, or then you have the ones that, do really well, and they haven't been invasive. They come from Europe, and a lot of those are the white lindens underneath. They do good where there's a lot of pollution and stuff. So that's just, but the beech, is a question. The elm is, you got to just be careful to pick amongst the 30 different cultivars that are out there. The pin oak might be a question,
Okay. Any that you might consider us or think about considering to add to this? So if we took the beech and the pin oak out of the mix completely, are there any ones that you might particularly think would be good choices for us to consider? I mean, obviously we've talked about the sugar maple as not being something at this point in time we might look at, but anything else?
We'll kind of see, like what was mentioned is take a look at what's at least in the neighborhood and, the 20 blocks around or, 10 blocks around, and try to stay away from anything that's overplanted, like not more than 10%, at the most. That's a very rough one. But, and that, but you have a list that was created kind of partially by me, partially by the other arborist.
Yeah, John Duvall.
John, yeah. And look at that, the big trees on that list, because you've got, there's others that can easily be used, and they're being used more and more. Especially the oaks. There's a lot more of a choice of oaks nowadays. Tupelos, there are, and there's stuff, offhand. I just don't want to rattle them off, but
Yeah.
I would, take a look at some of those things. There are options. I mean, I can take another look at the list, and think about it a little bit, and then send
Okay.
you
That would be good.
send you a short list.
Right, and then we can come back at the January meeting and hopefully develop a list that we can then get back to Amanda and Greg.
And again, a lot of these things also depend on, is it available? So it depends
Right.
on,
Yeah.
if you can order it the year before, you're okay. If you have to order it like the same spring, you may be problems,
Yeah. No, I realize that, right?
Yeah.
George, I'm looking at the list and I don't even see dogwood on this list for large trees or medium trees.
No, it's considered a
No,
small.
it wouldn't be. It's a smaller tree, typically under wires.
Yeah.
Yeah, but does that work for a road tree?
Well, I
Street
think in an
tree?
area that doesn't have a lot of traffic and it isn't in full sun being roasted, it
Mm.
probably would work.
Okay.
As long as the soils are good, and that,
Well,
so,
it's listed under a small tree.
yeah.
It's the last one on the list.
Yeah, all these, the red buds, the crab apples, I mean, generally the red bud is better than the dogwoods on the streets.
It's part of
Much
your
tough-
trio.
Much
Yeah.
tougher. And
Yeah.
the Japanese maple, those are invasive. And that they're more and more growing all throughout New York City parks and stuff. They weren't in the past, but they are now.
So, so in terms of this list that you and John created, we're just going to look at the large trees,
The large
whole
and
list.
medium.
okay?
Yeah. I don't know, and there might be a few trees on there that, need a little thought, maybe by a third party, Because we're not God,
Right. But I know you got like, in the medium tree, you have mulberry, and that's a real messy tree. I don't
Yeah, mulberries.
even know.
Right, exactly. Well, there's mulberries that can be got. I don't know whether they can be gotten, but there's mulberries that are just male trees, but it gets hairy, and I don't even think they're available in that. But in the future they will be, but I don't think we're there yet.
I would stay away from.
Stay away. Yeah, stay away from them. It's too
Personal
dangerous at this
opinion.
point.
Yeah, Vince, that one has park written next to it on that list. You'll see some of them that just have,
Okay.
Yeah.
yes,
in that last column, it says park.
that
Yeah,
makes
I think
sense.
that was some,
So-
not street tree.
So the three that are listed under medium in parks, they're not considered to be a street tree, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
so, because they have fruit, the persimmon and the
Yeah.
pawpaw, I think and the mulberry.
Okay,
Well, yeah, you have things like, I don't know where we put like bald cypress and stuff is a possibility too, they do good, and stuff, and that, and they're native. There's also the non-native one, the from China, the dawn redwood, that does good too, and stuff, so. But it's a whole different type of needle, obviously, it's more like a redwood.
Okay. Tebby, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just actually had two questions. One, I was going to ask you about the dawn redwood, which is a tree that I like, but someone from the Memorial Tree Fund just sent us an article about dawn redwoods becoming a problem or invasive. So I'm going to try to find that article.
Well, please do. And I'd love to see it. Please.
And I, you know, because they are in the Academy Green, and they were planted many years ago, and they're lovely. But I need to go back and find that. I'm pretty sure I just read something about them. My other question, George, you said you didn't recommend the beech. What about a copper beech? What about something like that, or is that not really appropriate either?
The copper beeches grow huge.
Okay, they're
You know,
too
they're
big.
usually found in like parks and in that, but they also get a fungal disease and a bleeding disease that basically wiped
Okay.
a lot of them out in Westchester. I don't know how much that is a problem here. I don't know if there's any that are like resistant to it, but it's killed most of all of them down in Westchester. They are beautiful though.
They are beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful trees. We have one in our front yard. It's not too huge yet, but
Yeah, I don't know if there's any cultivars with it. I haven't, you know, I don't get much call for that because it's not native, you know, so.
okay.
Evan, you had your hand up?
Yep. Two questions. So how does this list get selected, right? Because I think a lot of time when we are selecting trees, especially for the city planning, it's like, you know, we always will consider, you know, the effective of catching like particle, you know, to prevent like air pollution, and also like in terms of maintenance, you know, like if the tree is strong enough, it won't endanger the, you know, the pedestrian. And so I think like, do we have a list is based on a certain type of the tree, how effective the function is, and how, you know, I just want to know like how do this tree make to the list. And you know, if even we are going to make a recommendation, you know, a lot of time, you know, we have a personal preference, but this is a city street planning, then I would
Right.
recommend the Georgia to be part of like, you know, review process, and this will help us to guide us through, okay, what tree is more effective, you know, doing some certain things, and it will help, you know, us to, you know, plan the city better, or just create a more ecosystem for the city.
Right. I think the list that George and Vince and Tebby are talking about is a list that in the ordinance, there is a street tree list that's considered to be outdated. So George and John Duvall, who was is an arborist and did sit on our commission for a while, got together and started to work on a new list, which is still, it's an evolving work in progress, so to speak, of street trees that would be acceptable in both street tree situations and park situations. And that's the list that they're talking about now. Even that list now has some questions of certain ones that might not be considered appropriate at this time. So it's an evolving list. We don't have any particular list. It's something we continue to strive to try and get to, and it has to be updated regularly to deal with what you're saying, environmental conditions.
And even we didn't, you know, if you get two arborists or more in one room, nobody's going to agree.
Yeah.
You know, and when you go out into the public with preferences as to how it looks and stuff, that usually trumps everything else. But
Right.
your point is very good. In general, though, like if it's the larger the leaves, the better it is at cleaning the, you know, dust and pollution out of the air. However, on the flip side is the larger the leaves, the more problems with the leaves. So people don't like that. So there's all these balancing factors that come in, you know, and there are lists out there that deal with every one of these things, but they're very hard to all put in one place.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And so, but I don't know. Do you? I mean, if I can send you and I think you probably have this list, but it's like a 5 or 6 page thing that I put together, and I keep updating it every year. You know, I've got it color coded in green, red, and neutral. And it talks about, is it invasive? Is it hardy? Is it, pollution resistant? Is it large, medium, or small kind of thing? But, I have like the ones that are marked in green are ones that I've identified as something worth trying, but I mean, I can make that available,
I
to
think
you.
that would
And then
be helpful for the
Yeah.
commission
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah, and then you can
it can't
compare it
hurt.
to, the list that you already have and then
Right.
decide and that
Right.
and that.
Yeah, if you could do that and the commission members can review that and then so we'll come back in January and hopefully have some thoughts together. Each commission member can, put those out there and then we'll hopefully come to a consensus of what to recommend for this project.
Yeah, and that also might help for your, for a future list.
Right, exactly.
Because I keep update that I've updated it like 15 times in the last 10 years,
Yeah, great.
I think we have an
They-
old version of that, George, but it's probably 2 years ago now. So maybe
Okay,
it's
there've been changes.
maybe a year.
Yeah.
Amanda, I just had a question about the structural soils. I think we talked about that maybe with you, or maybe that was at a different project. Is there thought about that with this project?
We had talked about it. That was something, I think Greg and I were thinking maybe we would talk to you all about. Right now for New York State DOT, what has been used in the past, which is the Cornell structural soil, which I'm sure you've all heard of, has not been very successful in long term. So they are steering us away from using that. If any of you on the commission had known of a material that has been more successful in that situation, we would love to know about it. If there's something specific other than what just a standard New York State DOT structural soil mix that we would use, because they're trying to really get away from the Cornell mix at this time.
Is that because of the sidewalks failing, or are they saying it's not working for the tree life?
The tree life.
Interesting.
So I don't know, do they have any information as to how they're using it?
I'm not sure. I know that there have been some studies about the effectiveness of it. They're
Yeah.
not widely spread, but I do know just from our conversations with DOT that it is not in the best standing at this time.
Yeah, you see, it all depends on how it's used and how big their original plots are. And some places put the structural soil directly in the pit and even underneath regular soil, which, is all these variations. So I'm just wondering what it is that they do. And I find that they oftentimes give, so little space to the tree and then they use the structural soil, to make up for it under the cement. So yeah, that's why I'm just wondering do they have anything published on it? I mean, I'd love to get it if you have any.
I haven't seen, I know I've seen articles. I'll see if I can find any of them. They may have been.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, in the past, yeah, there are plenty of articles between structural soil and the 3 or 4 other methods and stuff, and they're all poo-pooing each other.
Yeah.
And that I get that, but I like if there's anything new, we tried this stuff that's very light. I think that you guys have looked at it in the past. It's like exploded shale kind of thing.
Okay.
I forget what it's called already. But the problem with that is it's very light. So I can't imagine how it would work, let's say if there's a windstorm and stuff
Yeah.
in a strange kind of way like that, but anyway, I'd love to check out how they're using it, because structural soil can be used underneath impervious surfaces and underneath pervious surfaces. And that does make a difference. And what I mean, how it's laid out. But
George, were you talking about that aggregate, that
yeah,
cookstone that they use?
that's right. Yeah, up in Saugerties they make it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. that holds a lot more in terms of soil and nutrients and stuff and water. Kind of it holds
Yes.
more. And that,
Yes.
but it has other issues. So
That's
Okay.
what it seems to be with all of them. They have some benefits and some issues.
yes,
Um,
Yeah,
I have
I
one
mean,
question too.
nothing beats the the 6x8 and 6x10 tree pits like New York City's using now.
That's true. I had a question about Cornell University also published a document on northeast trees. I think I sent that to Kyla a while back. Did we look at that one as well or no? In terms with your list, George.
Northeast, I don't know really.
Yeah,
don't know
it was published from Cornell University. I have to dig it up.
I use their like online stuff and their online stuff, and then they had a booklet that they put out, but it hasn't been updated for many years. They just went online. But I don't know.
This was
I really don't
this
know.
was online. This was probably sometime last year.
I'm really not sure. Look at, whatever you got.
Yeah, I'll send it out.
Yeah. At best, you always have to expect that, you're testing, because that's all everybody does at best,
Okay, can we go back? I mean, we're gonna be looking at this again in January in terms of the recommendations on the species list. But can we go back to the 3 street trees so we can give Amanda direction on those to work on the plans? We had 36, 38, and 123 Henry. Whether or not the commission agrees, concurs with removal, or just wants to allow them to let be.
Well, this is Vince. I concur with removal of all 3 trees.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on those? Vince, do you want to make a motion? I'll need a motion and a second and a vote on that. then.
Okay. I motion that we remove the 3 trees on Henry Street and replant on the other side of the street, and if feasible, a smaller tree on the wire side of the street.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
I second.
Okay, second by Evan. Says there discussion on that? Okay, hearing no discussion. I need the vote then. Vince,
Yes.
Evan. Yes, Evan. A vote? Evan looks like he is
I
frozen.
think he's frozen.
Yeah. Oh,
I vote
there you
yes.
go. Okay, Tabby's a yes. Evan, vote on that motion.
Sorry, I didn't hear earlier, like my internet froze a little bit.
Right, the motion was from Vince to remove all 3 and if feasible, replant, and plant on the other side, but if feasible, plant smaller trees under the wires.
Yes, I
And you
second.
seconded.
Yeah, but I thought like we have a 2 tree to replace this 1, 2, 3 Henry Street, right? Just want to double check.
Yes, that would be as part of the project, right?
Yeah, so I second.
Okay. Okay, so that motion is carried. Thank you. I don't have anything else. I know we're at our hour. So unless anybody has anything else, George, you'll send along your list. Vince, you're going to try and send that article again.
Yes.
We'll circulate that. If anybody else has any other information to share, I know Tebby, you're going to look for that article on the redwood, and then
Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I don't know.
okay. No, but whatever, any information, if you want to send it to Kyla and I, will make sure it gets circulated around to everybody on the commission, as well as Amanda and Greg, so that they have it also. But we will plan then for the January 11th meeting to discuss a list of tree species to recommend for Henry Street planting. Debbie?
I just want to make a quick announcement. You know, the Memorial Tree Fund has this little tree grant, and we actually made our first, someone had applied, and we're actually sending them a check. We actually approved a second grant, but that person couldn't get someone to take the tree down until the spring. So we're holding it over, and because they have to take the tree down before we send them the
Right.
funds. So I just wanted to say that people are taking advantage of that, and we're
Good.
hopefully we agreed, we made the committee agreed that we want to do it again next year for two more grants for next year, and we'll carry
Nice.
over this one grant from this year.
That's great. Well, that's good news, because I know, it is hard for people.
It's
a big
expensive.
expense, and, and I do understand it is very difficult. The tree companies are very busy, and so it is hard to get somebody right now, unless it's a real emergency, then yeah.
And I also just want to say how much I appreciate George's input, because I like having somebody has a little bit more experience kind of keeping us on track, because obviously I got my pear tree mixed up with something else. So anyway.
Well,
So-
hey, maybe you can prove me wrong. I definitely want to know if there's any problem I have. Keep me honest.
Well, you
Right.
keep us honest. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, is there anything else from anybody?
The list that I was looking at was sent from Kyla on 10/20/20. So if you can pull that up, Kyla, and redistribute.
Okay, it was a link to a website.
No, it was just,
No, I think that's the list that
Oh, from
George
Central,
and John
Central
worked on.
Hudson, you said? Which one is it? We have so many lists.
this is the one
Which
that
one is it?
George.
George and
George
John
was
put together.
Okay, yeah,
I
I
still
have
have
that.
mine.
I'm
I
gonna
found mine.
resend, I'm just putting an email together now, so I'll resend that. And then I'm gonna send a link to the tree commission section of the website, because there are some new members that maybe haven't seen the Arbor Pro stuff. And then there was an interesting document that I found that I was talking to Sue about that I'll include also, just about with some tree information. Any other lists? I think that's probably good for now.
Right, George was going to send his list.
So Vince, that's the one that George and John put together that you're
Correct.
talking about?
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's the one
Okay.
that you referenced with the parks on the right-hand side.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
Okay. Very good. Well, then I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, Tebby, can I have a second? Vince, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, everybody, have a wonderful holiday. Be safe, and we will see you in January.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.